big contributor to the problems that we have in our operation, as I'm sure you know, with our cars. Doors are one of the most challenging elements, mostly because of the wear and tear that they get over the course of any day. And we replaced upgraded over 800 doors on the fleet. And we also improved our work equipment availability, which is roughly the same workforce. So folks that are working on the diesels, get one picture there, the diesels that pull flats, the diesels that pull work equipment, and also we worked on the flats themselves. So managing the work equipment fleet is a whole separate challenge, and it's necessary to support capital work. There are times where capital work can't get done because we don't have a train or we're down a flat. And so those are the types of situations that we absolutely want to avoid. We want to make sure that the availability of that fleet is exactly where it needs to be. Emergency response. This image is probably difficult for you to read for where you are. But as I mentioned before, when we go back to that first graph that we talked about, the big incidents that impacted 200 or more trains, the big thing when it comes to stabilization is figuring out how to avoid those incidents altogether, how to keep them from happening. But the other piece is, how do we respond to stuff faster when it does happen? Knowing that we're a big system, we've got 11,000 signals out there, we've got 660 miles of track, something's going to happen. We need to be able to respond quickly. So what we did was we tripled what we call our CAT teams, combined action teams. Those are teams where we have track personnel, third rail personnel, and signal personnel all responding to an incident. We didn't used to have those. We put them in place a couple of years ago because it used to be that we would have a failure, an incident on the road, and it would be called in as a signal problem or a track problem. And we'd do what we needed to do to get the track people there or the signal people there. They'd get there and they'd say, oh, no, this is a signal problem or this is a track problem, some other issue underlying. So now we've combined these disciplines into these CAT teams, and in Subway Action Plan we tripled the number of them. We've been able to improve their response time to incidents by almost 20%, and the resolution time of incidents by nearly 30%. So we deployed emergency medical technicians at 12 key stations. Those are the pluses. And we've been able to add car emergency response teams in SAP, and also infrastructure emergency response teams. Okay, so what do we see in terms of performance? So there's been a lot of discussion about this in the news over the last couple of days since we gave this presentation. So to be clear, the objective of SAP was about performance stabilization. We were in a period of sustained worsening of service, and then specifically at a point where we had a significant number of major incidents all happening right before SAP started and the emergency was declared. So what we see with our performance trends now, performance statistics, and I can talk through them a bit, is that we see a stabilization of service. We're not saying that we have dramatically improved the experience that our customers are having. We know that we have more to do. But what we are saying is that the stabilization in the context of years-long worsening is a dramatic change from where we were. And it is a dramatic accomplishment. We absolutely have more to do. We're not saying that service is where it needs to be, but we have made tremendous progress in getting to a point of stabilization. So the examples or the evidence of the stabilization that we see, number one, major incidents. Major incidents are incidents that delay at least 50 trains, so not 200, but 50. When we look at major incidents, and we specifically look at that 6-month period before SAP, that period that I showed you earlier with the high yellow line, if we look at that period and we just compare it to everything after, we see that on a monthly level, major incidents have improved. They've gone down about 12%. And we see that across track incidents, major track incidents, major signal incidents, and major car incidents. So that speaks to the failures, but also speaks to our ability to clear them quickly. So to combine SAP. It's not saying that performance is dramatically improved, but it is saying by that indicator, that's a sign of stabilization, maybe turning the corner on improvement. We also, over the course of SAP, introduced new journey time statistics, so statistics that are customer-based not train-based. On-time performance, delays, weight assessment, those are all based on the trains, what the trains are doing. What are the journey time statistics, additional training time, additional platform time, are specific to the customers. So they're based on our models of how customers travel in the system, and they're also based on our real-time information and looking back, our real and actual information about what happened with train service. And so what we see is when we look at average platform time, now that's the time that someone spends waiting on the platform relative to what the schedule says they should be doing. When we look at that, and when we look at average train time, which is the time someone spends on the train for their trip, relative to what the schedule says they should be doing, we see that we've made improvements in 18 versus 17. We also see, just by way of context, that the difference there, it's about 70 to 80 seconds, meaning on average, people are spending about a minute and 10, minute 15 longer on the platform than the schedule says they should, and about that time longer on the train than the schedule says they should.
Well, when you talk about this kind of performance,
Excuse me, please don't interrupt. She's making a presentation.
why everybody else was asking questions?
No, let me stop her. She's going to finish her presentation.
All right.
I'll tell you what, I have two performance slides that I think probably go best together, and then maybe we could stop.
That's all right.
I have more slides after that, but we can maybe
Other
pause
people
at
ask
that point and talk about performance.
I'll-
Yeah, you guys-
We're members
say it.
of the
I'll say it.
committee. We can ask questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. Service delivered, which is another new statistic that we rolled out over the course of SAP, is the percent of the scheduled service per hour in the peak that we actually run. So in August, we had a number that was about 96%. It's the highest it's been. And that means that 96% of the scheduled trips are actually running in the hour that they're scheduled. And then last, we have the subway. This is the fleet-wide MDBF. When we look at the period ending in, this was June of 17, the 12-month was 115,670. If we look at the 12-month now, we're at over 122,000.
That means you've gotten rid of some of our 32s.
Still have the number. And okay, so this is also a telling slide. So this is delays. Now delays are, like I said before, they're trains that get to the terminal more than 5 minutes past their scheduled time. Or they didn't run, or they skipped stops, or they ran a different route, or something along those lines. It's just a straight count. And we have, for some time now, talked about how delays, as a statistic, isn't a great way of measuring what the customer experience is. Because a lot of people don't know that they're on the 12:06 that's supposed to be into the terminal at a specific time. They just want to get to the platform, they want a train to come, and they want to take their trip. But nonetheless, it's an important indicator for us because it helps us understand how tightly we're managing the railroad, right? How tightly we're managing our service. And right now, with our very public commitment to reduce 10,000 delays by the end of the year from our monthly total, we're looking at all those opportunities for tightening up our service management to shave delays off of the total. So what this is, this red line is a best fit line in the period mid 15 to mid 17. So it's just plotting those monthly totals of delays with a best fit line. That's the red line. It's increasing, which means worsening level of service, right? More trains are being delayed. The blue line is the trend since the onset of SAP. Again, it's best fit, and it's moving in the right direction. It's decreasing, which means that performance is improving. It's important to note that we did make schedule changes in the blue time period in late 17. And schedule changes in and of themselves would help delays because if places where we're adding running time, we would be able, those trains might not be late anymore, whereas the same running time from before could have been a delay. But what we see is that we didn't just have a step function, we see month over month improvements, and we see a continuing improvement over the course of 18. A tightening, if you will, as we move through 18. And schedule changes actually can help us do that because they give us a better playbook. Once the schedules are more correctly adjusted, we can dispatch more precisely, we can run our operation more precisely, manage our performance more precisely. But there's a whole lot of other things that have gone into this delay reduction as well. So we see this as a very encouraging trend and one that we are certainly looking to continue as we move toward our delay reduction target of 10,000 by the end of the year. So we're talking about performance or check? Okay. So we didn't only focus on incidents and delays with SAP. We also, as I mentioned early on, wanted to focus on communication and communication improvements and things that we could do to better share information with customers about incidents as they're happening so that people have the information that they need to make to plan their trip. So the first thing that we did is we appointed a chief customer officer. I don't know how many, if you guys have had the chance to meet Sarah Meyer yet?
Yes.
I saw her on Tuesday.
Oh, excellent, okay, great. So Sarah has begun with us. We've trained and deployed over 100 wayfinders. Have you guys met wayfinders in the system?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes,
That's your
okay.
answer there.
No, you haven't?
Met them,
Okay.
yeah, not been satisfied.
Okay, all right, okay. We talk about that. So we have wayfinders that are out providing mobile service in the system. We added over 50 new station announcers. So these are dedicated announcers that we've added in towers, mostly in the B division, to get more consistent announcements and better announcements out in stations over the PA. We deployed new procedures to get more accurate incident information. We are sending texts out that are in easier to understand wording directly to some of our conductors, directly to our wayfinders via their handhelds, also to agents on tablets. We have dramatically increased social media engagement. That's mentions of us and then also replies that we're making. And as I mentioned before, we released these new customer-focused metrics and a new dashboard that shows that's available monthly with all of these new metrics in an easier to read fashion. Okay, so we have now countdown clocks in all of our stations.
No.
Oh, sorry. We do actually have countdown clocks. We have one countdown clock in each of the new second avenue
But they're
stations.
not functioning.
No, I believe we do have beacon information on one
No,
clock.
I can tell you, I have, they
Okay.
are not.
At the proof.
It gives you, yeah, you know how it functions? It gives you the time and the date.
I would-
Which you
Right.
can find by looking
Yeah, no, I
on
agree.
your
Okay.
phone.
All right.
Trust
My
me.
countdown clock's
And I'll be
full.
happy to take you.
Good.
Let's move on.
Okay, so we released a new version of the MyMTA website, a new version of the MyMTA app, and lots of channels for customer feedback, right? So that new engagement report on the right there, I think that's included in your, Andrew, that's included in your TA books now, right? So that's something that you're getting monthly that we didn't used to put out. Talks about call volume, time to answer, social media
Well, that's all.
engagement. Yeah.
They took out the ability though to email a comment from Plan My Trip, which
My
is
Trip
very
Plan.
important.
They took out an email comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the ability to respond to a specific itinerary. And that was very useful because it was a good place to say, why are you telling me to go up the hill 3 blocks when there's, a bus here?
Right. So I think you should, I definitely encourage you to use the feedback portion of the app. The app is in beta version for a reason. It's out to get just that kind of feedback. So,
Right.
so use that, send your comments, and I've had comments myself, send comments, and the idea is to make it as user-friendly and as user-focused as possible. So that's the idea with the beta period.
Sally, there is something that I think I have brought up ad nauseum at this point in terms of communication. So I will now say it to you directly as I have to Andy, Sarah, Ronnie, and everybody else. There is no internal communications between the divisions. Specifically, when there is whatever reason, a delay on a train, or the train stops running, or there's a problem, and there is a bus line right nearby. I'll again use my station, but it is so many others, 77 and Lex, where a bus stops right outside. But the bus drivers don't know that the people are told the trains aren't running for the next year or the next couple of hours, take a bus. And an announcement is made in the station, but the bus drivers don't know anything about it.
We
And the bus dispatchers do not know to dispatch some more buses, or to have both the limiteds and this is a local stop, but to have everything stop there. And that causes so much, confusion is a good word, but
Right.
it's so much more than that. And as I said, I have brought this up with personally at meetings, my own personal meetings with them, and I don't see anything about that when you say communications are being improved. So I hope that you will do something about that.
Yeah,
Or
that's
that
it's an
something
excellent point,
is being
and I
done.
would agree with you that that is not something that we're doing well on a local level. Our control centers do communicate, but to the frontline employee.
It's not only the front line, but it's the person in the, I still call them token booths, in the
The
booth
agents,
downtown, the station agent or the wayfinder, and the bus driver.
Right, that's what
And they don't get it from the people who are their dispatchers. And even if they learn it from somebody down in the station, where you'll have some miracle, a station agent will actually come upstairs and say to a bus driver, unless the bus driver hears it from their dispatcher, they're not gonna do it.
Your
So-
point has been made.
How many times have I made it before?
Many times. Can we just let Sally finish and then we'll take
I'm
questions?
close, I think I'm close to being finished, okay. Okay, so we looked for new ways of improving the customer environment, not just on communications, but just in terms of amenities and appearance. We've rolled out new tools. As an example, we're using this on station floors. It hooks up to a mobile wash truck, and essentially it produces multiple streams of hot water underneath that round base. And it basically does a power wash, but not just a single stream of power wash, which is what we were doing before. So now we can get to a better, more productive operation there. We've rolled out more mobile wash trucks.
Amber alert.
Amber or flood.
Amber alert.
We're all getting it now.
I didn't get it.
In Hudson
Amazingly
Falls.
effective. Amazingly effective.
What?
Hudson Falls.
It's not you.
Nah, it wasn't one of us.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also, it's not very difficult to code, so it's something that's easier to work for. So on the right-hand side, I'm sure you've noticed that we've upgraded the lighting, we put LED lights in some of our cars, we've done the double pole stanchions, we've done some pilots to add standing room on some of the 160s. So we've also, as I mentioned before, we're really focused on how we do our work, right? And how we can find ways to be more productive and more efficient to get more done, recognizing that there's so much to do. We did some fundamental restructuring within the subways organization, and I think there's more of that to come. But we have done some things, and I think you probably saw, hope you saw that we just launched a new group station manager organization for our stations to improve accountability at the station level, which is great. We've done some similar types of things to improve accountability in other critical areas of the organization. We also we created the chief operating officer position that Frank Giesecke is in. He's my counterpart. He's the COO over the entire organization, and an excellent leader, able to manage across all technical aspects of any particular incident, which oftentimes it involves. I don't know how familiar you are with our organization, but formerly all those disciplines only rolled up at the senior vice president level. So one person was responsible for leading the entire organization and everything that comes along with leading an organization of 30,000 employees with close to 6 million daily riders, but also the person who would be able to sort of drop everything and manage a complex incident, which is something that Frank is really leading at this point, which is a good move in terms of the organizational restructuring. Dedicated maintenance resources for Washington Heights elevators. This is an area where we know that we had some availability challenges. We were able to, as we onboard more staff, bring in some contracted resources to specifically focus on those machines.
But the inaccessible ones?
Yes, yes, but very deep.
Yeah, no.
And very challenging old elevators, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember them well. Haven't taken one in the life of my wheelchair, but haven't taken.
We've been able to significantly improve availability there, and we've also been able to repurpose the staff that was working there to help out with system-wide. So we have taken elevator availability to the highest sustained level it's been in over 4 years. We've been working very closely with NYPD to manage the impact of their investigations. In fact, just last night I previewed a video that Andy is highlighted in, and so is Chief Delatorre, a training video for their officers who are, and their commanding officers who are the ones who are overseeing these investigations, specifically talking about strategies that they can take to minimize the impact to train service while they're conducting investigations. So I think that's great. So that's things like bypassing instead of stopping altogether. We did that this morning. If we have a train that's needed for an inspection, we did this last night. We have a train that's needed for an investigation, rather than leave it right in the station and do the investigation there, get it out of the way, take it to a yard. Just did that last night. So these are things that are progressing. This is a really strong partnership that really has grown significantly over the last year. New tools, new equipment. We've done all sorts of things. Our maintainers are wearing different gloves. We're using different nuts on some of the components on our switches. We have many examples of very small changes that we've made, but things that we're doing all over and over and over and over again, with the idea that that's going to lead to stronger maintainability and efficiency. The last bullet is very significant. We've been able to increase the productive time of our overnight general orders by 90 minutes, which is a 40% increase in productive time, which is a huge amount more work that we're able to do overnight. This has been the result of many different efforts. We have streamlined our processes for removing power for work location. We've strengthened the coordination of our trains, getting them where they need to be, which is a discipline in and of itself. We've started work earlier, which is something that I know that has been an inconvenience for a lot of our riders on weeknights, with general orders starting earlier. Certainly recognize that that's an inconvenience, but the flip side of it is that the more work we can get done on a single occasion, the less we have to go back there, which is a huge improvement for us. Here's some different types of work equipment that we're adding in. We already have rail grinding services, but we've added to them over the course of SAP. This is an example. We're not getting this exact one, but we're getting a rail car, a small number of rail car movers, which are a diesel substitute. We can order them in a matter of months for a fraction of the cost of diesels, and they can do some of the things that some of our locomotives do. So we can free up locomotives from those activities in the yards, and so we can get more locomotives out into the system to do more work. And we're getting new, and we've restored our flat cars, as I mentioned. So in terms of our current focus, in addition to continuing all of these efforts with respect to stabilizing the system, to getting at incidents, improving emergency response, literally, I mean, every day we dissect all of our major incidents and significant incidents from the day before as a big leadership team, and then each discipline is doing it themselves. We are also really focusing in on just every opportunity that all 30,000 of us have to strengthen the basics of what we do. We know we need to do a lot more. We know we have a lot of work to do. But in everything that we do, can we do it just a little bit more precisely? Can we do it a little bit tighter? We have a campaign internally called Save Seconds. And this is a campaign that we started. It's just an internal campaign, but it's messaged to everyone who's in subways, for everyone to think about what they do over the course of their day that impacts service, and think about things they might be able to do just a little differently that could potentially have a big impact. I talked about this at the meeting. I think it was misconstrued in some of the articles I've read since, but we know that of all of our delays, a quarter of them are within 2 minutes of making it on time. And I don't say that to say they're not important delays, they're not significant, but what I am saying that why I'm saying that over and over again is because it may mean that something that you're doing at one station, it could be a conductor doing something, or a train operator, or it could be someone, a maintainer, or someone who's working on a platform. Something that just adds 10 or 15 seconds to the time that a train is in the station at the beginning of a trip could easily add up to 2 minutes over the course of the 80, 90, 100-minute run. So something small, just a few seconds here or there, could be the difference between that train being delayed and not being delayed. And then of course there's ripple effects of that. So we're all engaging in this conversation. We're putting out videos that are being shown in crew rooms, putting out targets on a weekly basis for all of our crews, with targets for the line to try and reduce their delays. We've actually made some really great progress over the last few months in doing this. So in addition to everything else we're doing, just trying, from a behavior standpoint, for us all to be conscious of what it is we're trying to do in terms of tightening up service. That's pretty much that. And then, of course, I talked about this on the very first slide, the two objectives for Subway Action Plan. Number one was to stabilize the system, but number two was to lay that foundation for long-term modernization of the system. And that, of course, is Fast Forward. And we have put the Fast Forward plan together. We think it's achievable. Obviously, it's not funded yet. But the big step function in performance, the big step function in reliability comes from modernizing the signals. The big step function in accessibility comes from the aggressive plans that are laid out in Fast Forward in terms of elevator installation and in terms of station improvements. So we have that plan. We're working toward that plan. There's elements of that plan that don't require funding, and those elements are underway. The group station manager program is a great example. That was one of those elements, and that's already been rolled out. So we're very excited about Fast Forward. We're fully committed to it. We're going to continue to do everything that we can do right now to tighten up our operation and continue to improve the reliability of the system. Definitely are making progress. Definitely have seen dramatic change. We're nowhere where we need to be, but we're still fully committed to getting there.
Thank you. Bert, do you have a question?
Just a question, Sally. You didn't talk about escalators, you talked about elevators. Coming in this morning, all 4 escalators were broken.
Oh, my
Stopped. All 4. And there was some guy standing when I said, I reported.
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
working on the escalators?
Right. So obviously, no, there's definitely a lot of focus on the elevator and the escalator maintenance.
Kept saying that.
Yes. So elevators have been a real focus over the last year. I mean, they've been a real focus for longer than that. It's the same workforce, so we're working to do more to attract elevator and escalator maintainers into our place. It's not a problem that's specific to the city government. It's a very tough field in terms of filling positions. And it's particularly tough when the economy's good, which it has been for a sustained number of years. And we know that we were competing with the private sector to pull in folks with these skills. So we've recently raised the pay rate for elevator and escalator maintainers. We created a specialist rate for people who are more skilled at an even higher rate. We have grown significantly an apprentice program for elevator and escalator maintainers. And that is something that we actually did in conjunction with other properties in the country, other transit properties in the country. We all pooled our own resources rather than each of us go out and build our own, pooled our resources and built a 3-year apprentice training program. So we have a number of fronts that are going in that direction. That doesn't explain why you've been in the situation you're in this morning. I apologize for that, because you shouldn't. But certainly is an issue that we're working on. You're right, I didn't highlight it here, but we're working on it for sure.
Chris?
As I weighed in, reading all your testimony and everything, but there is concern that cleaning levels needs to be worked on a lot. Like example that I already put in these to the PCAC, that stations need to be really clean or mended, like edges, like there are some edges like are coming down apart a little bit. There was also, forgive me, I have to say this, but there's been rats on the platform, mezzanine levels. It's been getting the safety issues, like definitely West 4th Street is one, 7th Avenue in Brooklyn and the B&Q are an issue like that, and elevators that are not clean. Sometimes we have these the homeless issue is still a big issue, but they're thinking that's the bathroom for them.
So recognize that station cleanliness is an issue. Did you happen to see any of the press coverage on the group station manager? Please, if this is connected to the internet, I can show the YouTube video if that would you
I think, are you talking about the one that Byfield was on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I have it.
you have it, okay. So what we just did is we just rolled out something called the group station manager
Yes.
program, right?
Byfield showed me on Tuesday.
Okay, all right, so you've seen it. So the idea is that we know that our system in many ways has evolved over time and has been a product in many ways of underinvestment. And so we recognize that we can't just undo it. But what we can do is, again, look for every opportunity to as tightly manage our assets as we possibly can. So this group station manager program is designed in a way that reorganizes the functions of stations and puts the full operation of a station under a single manager who's responsible for 25 stations, not just one. But rather than have different disciplines that are sort of centrally managing all of the station assets in the system, have someone who's end-to-end concerned about what Bowling Green looks like, and whether the escalators are working, and whether the signage is up correctly, and whether the countdown clocks are working, and whether the agents are being as proactive as they can be with customer service, and whether the cleaners are the garbage pails are clean and empty. All of those aspects are something that is now rolled up to that group station manager. With the idea being that if you have people who are only looking at different elements of a station and aren't looking at the end-to-end experience, it's easier to look past stuff. But if you're responsible for the overall station experience, the overall station climate, you're going to pick up those pieces and you're going to be more accountable for the overall look and feel of the station. So we recognize it's an issue, we're absolutely working on it.
You also have the new fare payment. It's nice to hear about the Gold Metro card, but it'd be nice to hear about what you guys are gonna do for the reduced fare for the disability and seniors. Because, a lot of them are concerned what their car's gonna look like, how we're supposed to get onto the bus or the subway with that.
Chris, they're working on that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's worked on, Carol, it needs to be notified that saying it is gonna be worked
Fare
on.
discounts are still
It's,
gonna be.
it's only we're hearing is gold Metro cards. Nice to know gold Metro cards.
First
That's
of all,
what
they're
they're
not gonna be
calling
called
it.
Metro cards. It's gonna
I
be-
don't care if they call boo. All I'm
I
saying
think they're
is,
looking for a name, so maybe they'll consider.
yes, I just wanna know is can we try to
The boo
please
card.
work on a plan and like saying, we are working on.
There are definitely efforts underway to make sure that.
We know you're obviously working at it, but people do need to hear it
Okay.
occasionally. As well as the fact that how the gates are gonna work for those of us who need auto gate entry.
Mhm.
And yes, we understand they're working on it, but it's a particular concern. I would like to point out that, well, first of all, it's a little sad to say this, but if any of you are going out through Penn Station tonight, there are like Con Ed problems.
Yes, I know.
All over, okay. But, yeah, okay, but it's interesting because they're changing some of the names on the reasons. And maintenance, what's the difference between maintenance and planned work? And why would they be working on 2 of the 3 elevators on I'm gonna call it the A train platform at Fulton at the same time? So since this morning until late this afternoon, the elevator that goes from the A to the Lexington and the elevator that goes to the 2-3 were both being worked on as well as they were all day yesterday. I think that it would really behoove them to spread out that planned service. The same thing happened the other day in Brooklyn. J Street Metro Tech, they were doing